and whether that would translate to a presidential run in 2026, and you said it's too early to talk about that. But there are others who are talking about it. I'll read for you a tweet by the son of President Museveni, General Muhoozi Kainerugaba, who tweeted recently that to the Ugandan opposition, after my father, I will defeat you badly in any election. Ugandans love me more than they'll ever love you. So already the gauntlet has been thrown. Do you think in the next election, should you vie, that your opponent would be President Yoweri Museveni or it would be General Kainerugaba Muhoozi?
Like I said, I already beat Museveni. I already beat his father. Maybe if he wants a rerun. But that rerun has to be free, fair, and credible. For Muhoozi, I hesitate to respond to him because I don't know his state of mind right now. Maybe if they will play the interview for him later when he's in his sober state of mind. But he also knows he cannot vote himself.
As a member of the military, or?
No, I mean, if minus the... Let me leave it at that.
So you don't see him as a challenger in the next election? You don't... That's not something your team foresees?
I mean...
Off the back of some of the statements he's been making, and I'm sure you've been following them.
Definitely. You have read the tweets by General Museveni's son, which, in my view, are largely a representation of his father's thoughts. You know, what he tweets, in my view, is what they discuss on the dinner table, only that the son is let down by the drink and tweets it. Just like General Museveni, every once in a while is let down by age and lets the cat out of the bag, you know. However, among the many tweets, I remember he was telling you Kenyans that he does not believe in democracy or the rule of law. Now, why would I waste time on such an individual?
Do you think he's being propped as a successor? Do you see a deliberate attempt
you see,
by some in Uganda?
Definitely. This is what dictators do all over the world. They don't trust anybody because they know nobody trusts them. General Museveni is trying to prop up his son. He's trying to turn Uganda into a monarchy. You know, that's how they normally do. And of course, if they're not resisted by the people, they always get their way.
So if that is your feeling, from where you sit, what's your response then as the Ugandan opposition? Because from what we've seen from across the border, the Ugandan opposition seems fragmented, it seems divided. Whatever ambitions you may have or anyone else...
That is a media narrative, and I refuse to agree with it. Today, in Kenya, not even in Uganda, in Kenya, it was myself, Dr. Kizza Besigye, General Mugisha Muntu, and many other opposition leaders. By the way, I refuse to also be referred to as opposition. You'd rather call us the option. We won the election. And here
the dictionary defines opposition.
Exactly.
Bobi.
Yeah, but I mean, one Kenyan comedian was cracking a joke, and I agree with him that in Uganda they don't have an opposition leader, they have an athlete because he's always on the run. So that's what we reduced to. We're relegated to the opposition, and I encouraged my team to take up that role and use it as a front fighting to end dictatorship. So please refer to us as the option, not as the opposition.
Fair enough. That is your right. You say the option is united.
Yeah.
But in 2021, when you were vying, we did not see that massive endorsement for your candidature from opposition leaders, so to speak. And some say maybe that has been the challenge of Uganda's opposition. And Martha Karua challenged the opposition or the option to unite.
Definitely. I agree with Mother Martha. And I agree with you. We were not probably as united as we are now, or we are not as united as we should be. But I'll just quote for you, Malcolm X said, don't blame people for not thinking as you think, because there was a time when you didn't think the way you were thinking. Mm-hmm. I don't want to blame our disunity of yesteryear today.
So how are you then planning for the future? Is there a thought that Bobi Wine would endorse Besigye or Besigye would endorse Bobi Wine if it comes to that?
But the problem, you are talking about a democratic election. You're talking about an election. And I'm telling you...
What other ways are there to ascend to power in a democracy?
But we're not living in a democracy. The question should be, what are the ways to get to power in a military dictatorship? And I'll tell you that Sudan was a military dictatorship. Bashir is no more. You know, Burkina Faso was a military dictatorship under Blaise Compaoré. Blaise Compaoré is no more. Yes, they're having their challenges now. So dictators are, in most cases, not voted out of power.
Museveni supporters don't, but President Museveni supporters don't see it as you see it. They talk about a constitution, they talk about rule of law. They talk about, President Museveni has previously told, media outlets that the opposition can operate as they feel in this country. So, which is why I ask you, what other option? You are talking
about a constitution, my brother. You know what has happened to our constitution multiple times. How many times it has been ripped and raped. You've watched Ugandan politics. You saw what happened in 2005. General Museveni removed term limits. In 2018, he removed the age limit. And, there's a scheme in the offing to even scrap presidential elections. Why? Because General Museveni can no longer take the embarrassment of going into an election. I will also say this.
How would that, sorry, I'm curious about, how would that work? How would legitimacy be gained without... No, what are you hearing? Is it from MPs? Is it your MPs giving you this information?
Oh yeah. I'll tell you that it always begins as an irresponsible MP making errant statements. And indeed, General Museveni denies it, like he denied the plot to remove term limits, like he denied the plot to remove the age limit. That is how he recently denied the plot to remove presidential elections. But this is how he does it. General Museveni uses, leaders or MPs or politicians that seem unserious to test the waters. He'll bring something that will look clearly silly, but later on, he's going to jump on it. So, like I was saying, today they are planning to remove presidential elections. I'll mention to you that I did not go into the election because I was expecting General Museveni's appointed electoral commission to declare me winner. I mean, this is the electoral commission that stopped me from doing presidential consultation. Even when it's within the law, it's the electoral commission under Mr. Byabakama who blocked me from campaigning when General Museveni was campaigning. We have an electoral commission that is led by Museveni's former lawyer, a person that was used to accuse Dr. Besigye of rape a few years ago. So that is the kind of democracy that we are talking about. But I was telling you the many options that we have. Public protests.
Within the law.
Within the law. We are doing everything we do within the law. We mobilize within the law. We organize within the law. But even our legal organization is now declared illegal because it threatens General Museveni.
So as you continue to speak at this conference, both today and tomorrow, one of the partners that I'm sure is attending are representatives of Western nations. Do you think the West should have a role in Uganda's politics?
Yes. And ask me what role?
How so? Yes.
By stopping to sponsor impunity. By stopping sponsoring illegality. Dictators in Africa are largely funded by the West. General Idi Amin was funded by the West until they were tired of him. General Museveni receives a lot of money, up to $1 billion annually.
Is it him or it's the country? Do you mean?
But Uganda is
General Museveni, same way Kenya receives money.
Okay, but General Museveni has reduced Uganda to his personal property. This is a kind of person that goes on national TV and says, "My oil." Okay, we are talking about General Museveni, and you know him.
So let me ask you this, because he accuses you of being a puppet of the West.
If anybody is a puppet of the West, General Museveni is a puppet of the West. The West does not pay me. The West pays General Museveni. The West protects General Museveni. The West turns a blind eye on the illegalities of General Museveni. When Bashir did what General Museveni is doing, he was sanctioned. When Mugabe did to the people of Zimbabwe what General Museveni is doing, he was sanctioned. When all other dictators, the Saddam Hussein, etc., did what Museveni is doing, they were sanctioned. Why is Museveni not sanctioned? We attempted to believe that, he is an agent of neo-colonialism in Uganda. Today, we are being colonized by fellow black people.
You meet ambassadors, you meet high-ranking leaders as you go around the world.
Yes,
you pass this complaint.
I tell them that straight.
What do they tell you? What do they respond? What do they tell you in response?
Well, I might not say everything that they say to me, because some of them actually, off camera, they will agree with me. And others that are so embarrassed of what they are doing say we'll look into it, which clearly means we're not going to do anything about it.
You've spoken about something you see in Uganda where a statement is made publicly by a leader, it's disowned by many, but later on things begin to unfold. And on the 8th of November, you tweeted, "Dear Kenyans, be vigilant. This may come as a lone MP making a ridiculous suggestion, but this is how it starts. That's how schemes to remove term and age limits begin. Defend your constitution before it's too weak to defend you."
Yeah.
You saw that statement. For you, what did you feel as you read what was a discussion in Kenya?
When I saw that,
2 weeks?
I saw Musevenism making inroads into Kenya. And that should scare you. Any sign of Musevenism is a dangerous sign. And I'll tell you, I respect Kenya. I don't intend to meddle into the issues of Kenya. But we are one and the same. These borders were drawn by colonialists. Our father, Kwame Nkrumah, told us that the liberation of Africa can only be real if we are all free. No country is free when their neighbors or when their brothers and sisters across the borders are not free. Dictatorships are the easiest things to export. I was concerned when General Museveni was referred to as, father of the region, but, yeah, we can respect age, but General Museveni
he is respected by many for restoring peace, order in Uganda after the chaotic period, economic
growth. Those people
growth.
that look at General Museveni,
there are those who see that as his enduring legacy.
Well, I mean, everybody looks at it from their point of view. Some people look at it from a beneficial point of view. I am a Ugandan, and I'm speaking on behalf of the majority of Ugandans, because we went to the polls and they gave me their mandate. But I'm also speaking from the point of common sense, because you know that when it starts like that, you certainly see where it's ending. So the reason why we go to school, and I'll quote Dr. Besigye, is to learn from the experiences of others. If you Kenyans cannot learn from the experiences of Ugandans, then it will be unfortunate for you to learn from your own experiences.
In a nutshell,
I told you to guard your constitution before it is too weak. To guard you, constitutions are supposed to be bigger than leaders, bigger than presidents. You have had the privilege of watching one leader peacefully hand over power to another leader. You don't want to lose that. You want leaders to be held accountable, for leaders to constantly be reminded that their term is going to expire and they will go off the presidency and others will come into power. And they should be reminded that they will be held accountable for the things they do while in power. You must not lose that, my brothers and sisters.
When do you think a transition like that will happen in Uganda? How soon? Where one president hands over to another, which I believe is something that has not been seen.
That is something that my grandparents longed for. And then my parents longed for it. And now I'm longing for it. General Museveni took power when I was 4 years. I'm now 40. Uganda has been independent for 60 years. General Museveni has taken 36 years of that and still counting. So for me to be on this TV and tell you that on such and such a date is when we're going to have a peaceful transfer of power, I would be lying to you. We still have to struggle to ensure that power leaves an individual's hand and goes back to the institution of state. The institutions are the ones that are going to be bigger than human greed.
What was your assessment of Kenya's election? You were here as an observer with Dr. Kiza Besigye and others a couple of days. I believe you landed here a couple of days before August 9th, and I don't know how long you stayed after that. What was your general assessment of our democracy here?
Wow, what can I say? I was astonished. I go to the airport, the election was tomorrow, the internet was still on, and it continued to be on even through the election. I did not see people being abducted or the military everywhere. I did not see, the opponents of the incumbent under house arrest. It was astonishing. And I'm not saying Kenya's democracy is perfect. But I said it earlier on, that as imperfect as your democracy is, you are certainly where we envy. But again, democracy is always just a step away from extinction. So you must guard it jealously.
A couple of years back, you made a radical decision to, and you said in your 30s, because you're now 40, you know, your average Friday would have been you partying and, you know, entertaining Ugandans and the world. But you made a decision to get into the world of politics and activism as well. And what is your message? But before that, why did you decide to make that sacrifice of speaking up? Because many feel that there's a price you've paid for that.
I don't know if I will be understood if I say I didn't make that decision. The decision made me. You know,
something bigger than you?
Yeah, I mean, I looked around and there's nobody that could represent me like myself. You know, we have always looked up to the intellectuals of this world. Back in Uganda, intellectuals are the worst undoing to our country. You know, they are either scared or too satisfied. They have too much to protect. But we were many. So I rose to the occasion to represent my people. I started out as an activist, and before long, my friends around me were saying, yo, the things you tell us, go tell them to us publicly. And when I made that step, man, looking around, masses were like, yo, you are the guy. And I said, okay, did you say I'm the guy? All right, I'm the guy. Put on my suit. And here we are.
How has your family been impacted by your political activities?
It has been a big impact. We've lost, of course, lots of comfort, lots of privacy, lots of freedom. My children have had to grow up much faster than their ages. My youngest child is now 7, but she knows things that she probably would learn at 16. There's been a lot of discomfort, but I must also look at the positive. There's been a lot of love. We receive a lot of love from people, much as other families are suffering. And many times I even feel embarrassed. I feel we receive too much love because many other families are suffering, but we get love from people simply because of the decision that I made.
I'm told we're due for a break. Just before that, what role would you say your family has played in this journey? You've talked about the impact, and specifically your wife, Barbara Kyagulanyi.
My wife has been a pillar of strength for me. She's my first advisor, and you know, she takes me back in whatever shape I come back home, whether with broken limbs, beaten, etc. She takes me back. She agreed with me. She said, you know what? Go.
She's never changed her mind and told you, stop this. It's too much now.
Initially, she was not for this because we worked so hard in our earlier years and we wanted to retire at 35, at least myself. So initially, she was like, man, you can still serve your country through your music. But when she came to see me in military detention, saw me beaten, watched my driver killed, watched women raped, she said, you know what? If it is you that we have to sacrifice for the liberation of this nation, so be it. And since then, she's harder than even myself.
My goodness. Bobi Wine, hang on there. I need to take a short break, do one or two things, then I'm going to read feedback. We're getting so many messages, and I'm going to be reading that to you. Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu in the country for a conference, the Uganda Human Rights Accountability Conference, a 2021 presidential candidate. He says he has hope for the future, hope for Uganda. On that note, we take a short break. When we come back, I've got a bit more news to give you and a few more questions for him as well. You're watching Citizen TV. Stay with us.